Do you know what today is? It's your lucky day. It's your lucky day. It's we all be, baby. Welcome once again, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, to the wokish and the sleepish and the sheepish. This is yours truly, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2, the Artivist. And this is We All Be, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. Once again, it's We All Be, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. And we got a special guest. One of our most requested guests will be joining us shortly. He's trying to log online, try to get on board. By the way, you know who he is. By the way. I hope all is well out there during these very strange and interesting, trying times. A lot is going on, a lot to process, a lot of distractions, but learn how to focus. In the land of the blind, the one who could see anything, even if you have a bad eye, is king. So recalibrate your third eye. I know today the Matrix, resurrections come out. You know, some people believe it was a black woman who actually created the Matrix series. Sophia Stewart, I think she had a birthday not too long ago. Shout out to her. But here's the thing: most things you think were made by them, we either taught them or they stole it from us. I mean, melanated people, the black folks, the original human beings, the universal people of the cosmos. We are some unique people. And I come to you from the city of good abode, right? From Memphis, Tennessee. Dolphland, for some of you all, you know, young Dolph just had his memorial services at FedEx Forum. I was not one of the lucky folks to get into the forum, but the day before they had the honorary street ceremony, the street naming ceremony for young Dolph at Dunn and Airways. You know, Airways, the street that he was killed on at Makita's Cookies. And I can't believe it's been over a month since young Dolph, Adolph Robert Thornton Jr. became a righteous ancestor, but we're no closer to solving his crime officially, as far as I know, than we were on November 17th when it happened. Unfortunately, but I had a chance to go to the street honorary street naming ceremony. Shout out to Councilman J.B. Smalley. I believe he's running for governor of Tennessee. If elected, will become the first black person to hold statewide office in Tennessee history. So we'll see. Tennessee waltz. Keep on dancing, keep on singing, keep on playing. But shout out to J.B. Smalley for actually taking the initiative to get that done. I know everybody's not a fan of because people say it's not a real street renaming. You know, the signs, our official street sign names are in green and white, but the honorary street sign names are in black and gold. So, I mean, it's a step, I believe, in the right direction. But here's my thing about the Young Dolph thing. You know, Young Dolph is very popular, very well known now, but will he be popular and well known 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now? You know, this year marked the 25th anniversary of the untimely demise of one Tupac Amaru Shakur in Las Vegas. I'm never going to forget where I was at and who I was with when I heard the news of Tupac's demise. You know, it's like one of them generational events, like for people 9/11, of course, Pearl Harbor, King, Kennedy, both Kennedy brothers assassinations. Go on and on and on. And to this day, it's officially unsolved. It's a cold case, the Tupac case, even though it could have been solvable 20 years, 25 years ago. But you see, the powers that be do not care. Black lives do not matter when you are in a system that do not value human life in general, but black lives do not matter, especially if you are a rich, famous black man. And Tupac was a rich, famous black man, and he died in the city of sin. And what happens in Vegas, it stays in Vegas, allegedly, unsolved. You know, but I had a chance to look at the Who Killed Tupac series that came out, I believe, about 4 years ago. Attorney Benjamin Crump was the star of that show. And I just got through binge watching it over the last 2 days. And I must say this, I have more respect for Benjamin Crump because I had no idea that, number one, that his mom was high school classmates with Afeni Shakur. His mom is from North Carolina. Afeni Shakur, I believe, is from Lumberton, North Carolina, originally Tupac's mom. And they actually was high school classmates, which is interesting. And then Ben Crump actually did a decent job. You know, a lot of y'all complain about Ben Crump always losing cases, but it's not that he loses, he settles. He doesn't, you never saw him in action as a trial lawyer, as far as I know. You look at somebody like Johnny Cochran, he was a phenomenal trial attorney. And Ben Crump never, to my understanding, had any major trials to shine as a trial attorney. But I would say, just look at this series. It's on the Internet Movie Database. You go to Amazon Prime, you get the Internet Movie IMDb database thing for free. Couple of ads, but it's worth watching. The 6-part series. I think Ben Crump did a phenomenal job of making. He basically reviewed all the possible or the most popular and controversial conspiracy theories, and really did his homework. He had a good team of people working with him. They actually, interviewed people. I was surprised they were able to interview Little Half Dead. I remember Little Half Dead from the early 90s. I think he's Snoop Dogg's cousin. He was on Death Row, but he had a couple of songs that were very catchy. Back in the mid-90s, You Had to Be a Hustler and 12-Pack of Doja for Soldier. He actually tracked him down because people claim that Little Half Dead had a beef with Tupac. That Little Half Dead was mad because Tupac stole his son, Brenda's Got a Baby. Brenda's got a baby. I love, man, I'm going to tell you something. Tupac was so brilliant because my mama loved that song. She loves Dear Mama, Keep Your Head Up. He knew how to make the anthem for the women. He knew how to honor Black women. That's why nobody never, ever believed that he raped anybody. Matter of fact, he did not go to jail for rape. He went to jail for improper touching of the buttocks. He got 1 to 4.5 years for that. He was found innocent or not guilty of sodomy charges. See, we got to stop lying on our people, man. Because I see a lot of popular vloggers and bloggers say this lie on Tupac. Even Vlad TV interviewed the alleged accuser or victim some years later, like 20 years later. And she, you could tell she was a very attractive woman back in her time because she still looks good to this day. But she's like a MK Ultra sex kitten. Like she was on the mind control, even when they did the interview some 20 years later. And she took selfies in front of a Tupac mural. So it was weird. But Tupac was killed by the state. Now people would say, well, he got into it with Baby Lane, Orlando Anderson, and it was gang retaliation. But you understand, y'all do understand that the Bloods and Crips were created by the United States government, right? Y'all do understand that street gangs are created by the government. Y'all do understand that organized crime is controlled by law enforcement. I hope y'all do understand that law enforcement is organized crime. I hope y'all really do understand that. Because if you don't understand that, then you don't have no clue about the debauchery, this evil wickedness of this so-called system, where it would do to Black people. See, y'all, like I talked about with John Potash. I think it's potash, potatoes, potato. Y'all know the brilliant white brother that we had on last Friday. He broke it down a little bit, made it plain in about an hour. We're going to have Brother John Potash on for some more rounds on We All Be. But the FBI was involved in the state-sponsored assassination of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. and Defense Captain Mark Clark of the Black Panther Party in Illinois back in December 4th, 1969. It's been proven in a court of law that the FBI was responsible, for the state-sponsored assassination of Black Panther Party Chairman of Illinois, Fred Hampton Sr., and Defense Captain Mark Clark as they slept in his apartment on the west side of Chicago. That's been proven in their court of law, the United States of America court of law, that this happened. Also been proven on December 8th, 1999 in a U.S. Civil Court of Law in Memphis, Tennessee, the city of good abode, that the government was found complicit. Elements of the government was found complicit in the state-sponsored assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In their courts, there's been, and then the gun could be traced back to the FBI. Gun could be traced back to the FBI, right? Malcolm X, they exonerated some guys, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam, the late Khalil Islam. They were exonerated a couple weeks ago. 4 days later, Malcolm's youngest daughter, who was in the womb when her father was assassinated in front of the family, Sunday, February 21st, 1965, at the Audubon Ballroom. She died under suspect circumstances. But we do know that Malcolm X chief bodyguard, Eugene Roberts, was NYPD undercover part of a COINTELPRO program called Boss or Bossy. I'm Bossy. And also the cat, he set up Tupac's mom, Afeni, and the rest of the Panther 21. They were accused of trying to plot to destroy and blow up historic landmarks in New York City area. So this Tupac mom, she was like 7 months pregnant with Tupac when she defended herself in court successfully, but yet she was still a targeted individual by the government apparatus because of the infamous name Shakur. It's an infamous name among law enforcement, and it followed Tupac because of the things that not only his family was known for doing, but also what he did when he shot them 2 off-duty Atlanta police officers and got off for free. Then, brother named Ronald Howard, I believe, down in Texas, shot a state trooper and said that he was listening to Tupac's Soldier Story. That's a tight song, a soldier story. So he said that Tupac made him do it. And Tupac did a deposition back in 95, successfully defending himself in a deposition. You could find it on YouTube still. Just Google it up. It's from 95. Tupac was brilliant. He was no gangster. He was no thug like that. He was an intellectual who was deep cover. I would say he went deep cover to try, as what John Potash talked about, try to bring about a peace truce among the street gangs. He was basically continuing to work what Fred Hampton Sr. did back in the 60s when you try to unite the street gangs in a rainbow coalition. So that's important to note. So we got to study our history and know the roots of these struggles and of the evils, as they say. But the FBI blueprint, the COINTELPRO thing, is still working today, especially in the hip-hop music. Also Operation Mockingbird, the CIA program. But the FBI, I could trace the FBI hired the first Black FBI agents to neutralize Marcus Mosiah Garvey, our greatest Black mass leader. FBI did this, the FBI did that. The FBI refused to bring charges before Carolyn Bryant Dunham, the woman who lied on Emmett Till and got him lynched. They'll drag Bill Cosby into prison after making deals they do not honor, and yet y'all respect these folks. So they won't put Carolyn Dunham or Bryant, whatever she calls herself these days, even though she confessed to a historian, Timothy Tyson, a Duke University historian, who was writing a book about the Till trial, about the Emmett Till situation, that she lied. And then you got folks that knew her, they said she had a reputation for liking tall, dark, and handsome guys. I ain't talking about no Clark Gable either, or no Cary Grant. I'm talking about they said allegedly she preferred tall, dark, and handsome. And she was not going to tell her husband, but the Black folks told that the boy from Chicago was improper. Told Roy Bryant, her husband. So that made me wonder about something. Also, I had a chance to check out the Women of the Movement, the first 2 episodes. Shout out to the National Civil Rights Museum. I had some issues with them back in the day, even though I was a tour guide when I was there at the age of 11 when it first opened. I used to be a tour guide with my mom. But it is an interesting history with this National Civil Rights Museum. But they hosted an online virtual screening of the first 2 episodes. Then they had a talk with some of the actors, the producers, and all this stuff behind the scenes folks, as well as in front of the camera people. I think Glenn Turman did a phenomenal job as Mose Wright, Emmett's great uncle. Made him a sympathetic character because people said, well, Mose Wright, he was a coward. Some people think he was a coward because he allowed the white man to take Emmett that night. But the thing about it is, Mose Wright was put in a hard position because the situation with Carolyn Brown and Emmett happened several days before they kidnapped Emmett Till from his great uncle's home. Had Emmett and his cousins told Mose Wright about what happened at the Bryant store, you best believe he would have been on something to Memphis on the way to Chicago that same day. In a New York Minute, he would have been on some type of transportation to Memphis on the way back to Chicago. But they did not tell Mose Wright. So I mean, like the brother J.W. Mallon, the half brother of Ward Bryant, asked how old Mose Wright was, because Mose was trying to beg the man, y'all can just discipline him, don't take him away. We'll give you money, whatever you want. And so J.W. Mallon allegedly asked Mose Wright, how old are you, boy? He said, I'm 64. Said, you know what? You want to live to be 65, you better shut the you know what and get the you know what out the way. That's how they did it back then. So, I mean, he did what he did, but he testified and pointed him out in court. But he also said he heard a woman's voice confirm that it was Emmett. So that woman's voice probably was Carolyn Brown, but the FBI said we can't do anything about it. It's not enough evidence. Even though she did a confession to Timothy Tyson, the historian from Duke University, who wrote a book about it. I don't know any lawsuits saying that he lied on her or all this stuff. So evidently she has a survivor's guilt or remorse or whatever. So, but this is what you get. No justice, just us. And you people and black folks being their feelings about stuff. Oh, why they don't? So you think about Emmett Till. I have no vote of confidence that they are interested in really finding out what happened to young Dolph in Memphis, Tennessee. Officially. I don't think this could be another Tupac. And going back, let me go back. I think Who Killed Tupac limited docu-series that Ben Crump did was great. I got more respect for Ben Crump now because he actually did the work that a lot of folks tell me they want to do. He actually took the most controversial and popular conspiracy theories surrounding the death of Tupac and turned it on their heads, spin them around. And he wasn't afraid to follow up on leads. Like I said, he interviewed Little Health Dad, and Little Health Dad said, I wasn't there because there's a theory, jailhouse confession that said Little Health Dad, the rapper, was the trigger man that night in Vegas, that he was in the white Cadillac with these brothers called the Patton brothers. They couldn't find the Patton brothers when they did the documentary series. So they actually, Ben Crump went to Little Health Dad's place and talked to Little Health Dad. And I remember Little Health Dad from back in the day. You had to be a hustler, 12-pack of Doja. Had some good songs, some good hood anthems back in the mid-90s. And I believe that he didn't do it. Basically, they said, I want to kill him because he allegedly stole my son Brenda's Got a Baby. And Little Health Dad wasn't even known back then. Like Money B was interviewed from the Digital Underground. He allegedly was going, I don't know if it was Money B or Tretch. They was going to trial for the part of Bishop and Juice, and Tupac got it, and the rest is history. But Tupac started out as a roadie, a dancer, a background MC for Digital Underground. We lost Shock G this year, Mr. Humpty Dumpty. The Humpty Dance is your check. That brother was brilliant producer, this brilliant intellectual brother. We lost too many this year alone. But Shock D said, hey, he was inspired by a newspaper article he read to write Brenda's Got a Baby. And he wrote that back, they did this back in 1990. He was started working on that back in 1990. And Tupac, to me, was such a prolific writer. I just doubt that he would have to steal somebody's work. This man was rewriting Shakespeare for modern audiences and stuff as a teen. We forget that Tupac was only 25 when he died. People act like Tupac. Even Young Dolph was 36. Come on, man. Young Dolph was 36. Nipsey Hussle was 33. DMX was 50. I mean, Tupac was just 25. Y'all judge him very harshly, but I believe history has been very kind to his legacy. And speaking to legacy, we're gonna bring on the one and only, truly beyond category. Hopefully, future mayor of Memphis, the one and only. You love him, the people's champ, the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. How you doing?
All right. How you doing?
Man, I'm hanging in there, man. It's like I don't know if it's hot or warm. It's supposed to be wintertime, but I'm walking around with short sleeve shirts and stuff in Memphis, and probably even some shorts tomorrow. How you doing, Judge?
All right. I have seemed to be having some difficulties in getting everything set up today. I don't know what the problem is, other than what it always is.
Yeah, but
this area seems to have some very sluggish, very deficient connectivity problems, especially if you've got AT&T. Maybe somebody needs to look into that.
Yeah, we think about the 5G. I think they're holding up the 5G rollout for certain areas.
Well,
like
I've got one of these new iPhones. It's 5G, and quite frankly, it works faster when you are not someplace where there's a Wi-Fi around than if you have a Wi-Fi around. But then some other stuff won't work unless you go through Wi-Fi. So catch-22.
And speaking of, like, I guess catch-22, like, what do you think about? I mean, you running for mayor of Memphis in 2023, correct?
Yeah. Can you turn your volume up? This is coming through very low right here.
Let me see what I could do. I got it up. Let me see. Let me see. I'm gonna try it. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you better. Let me go get a pair of earphones.
All right, that's fine. All right,
earbuds or something.
Okay. So yeah, we got Judge Joe Brown. Sometimes it be like that when you're doing live shows. Anything could happen at any time, but it's a blessing to have the Honorable Judge Joe, regardless of the technical difficulties, on for any length of time to make it plain to the people out there. Like I said, we're gonna bring back Brother John Potash to talk about Tupac and also Hip Hop COINTELPRO. A lot of things like these rappers just dropping at an alarming rate. It's like it's unsafe to be a rapper right now. If I had kids, I would not allow them to be rappers or join the military right now. It's just unsafe to be a rapper right now. But I think these rappers got to understand is that they're not just, rapping, they're casting spells, so to speak. But we'll talk about that maybe in the show. But Judge, everything good now?
Let me see.
Okay. And it's always something. But people want to call me when I'm on the air. But that's life. Anything can happen.
Much better.
Yes, sir. Okay, excellent. So you fired up and ready to go? Yeah, I want to ask you, because you're running for mayor of Memphis, right? You can hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, you're running for mayor of Memphis for 2023, but right now, a lot of things that's on people's mind right now in the city of Memphis, even outside of Memphis, is the crime situation. Memphis was recently ranked as the #1 dangerous city in America. What's your take on that, sir?
And what do you think? It's not surprising. We have had an administration in place for the last 1.5 terms is basically incompetent to address the issues. Nobody seems to have any imagination or any clue. And I can understand it because the powers that be in this place, ranging from the DA's office to the mayor's office, have no connection to what's going on. And they look at the problem as one of suppression rather than one that needs to be modified and changed. See, it's all about location, and Memphis is located in what used to be the old primal giant valley leading across the main river on the continent, the Mississippi. I-40 runs down that valley and goes all the way from New York to Los Angeles, essentially. This is the main location in the country, and rather than this place being somewhere that children, grandchildren, a lot of people want to leave and put behind them, it ought to be where people are seeking to move to. This ought to be the center of the import of goods into the country. It is the center of distribution for the whole continent of North America, and it ought to be the manufacturing center. There's no reason why it's not. So when there's no hope and when there is an insufficient educational system, which I fault the city council for some years ago, and the County Commission and the County Board of Education for, and the people for allowing it to happen, you kind of get what you reap what you sow. These boys out there in the neighborhoods, they don't have any manhood in, well, they don't have enough manhood in them. And instead of being devoted to duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, and accountability, they've got a girl's way of looking at things wherein they're trying to figure out what's going to be given to them, and petulantly and emotionally, if they don't get it, they want to go take it.
Mm.
So if life is cheap, especially when you consider your life to be the cheapest of the lot, your own life to be the cheapest of the lot, what do you expect? There's no daylight at the end of too many tunnels. Now, as to whether there are programs that work, well, for 10 years when I was on the criminal court bench, I reduced the recidivism rate for felonies from the statewide rate of 80% down to 18% by putting some of these things in place. And I always had an expanded list that I just could not do as a judge.
Mm.
I'd like to do that as a mayor. But anyway, that's campaigning. But here, one of the things we have to do is we need to get these boys to man up and start taking manly responsibility for what's going on. Stop trying to be crude, rude, and fly, and start being manly and responsible. It's your job to make where you live a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, opportunity, morality, and a sense of ethics, not make it a hell.
Yeah, I
Now,
know. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I listen to people with some failed ideas. Oh, we need gun control. Do you really think these crooks that don't mind looking at the death penalty for murdering somebody are going to stop packing iron they already have just because somebody makes it illegal and the good citizens don't carry their stuff? Well, look at what's happened around here over the last several months. There have been hundreds of car burglaries where the perps drive up four or five in a car or a van, jump out, run through the parking lot outside of an upscale restaurant, bust out the passenger windows, yank open the glove compartments to see if they can find a firearm in there, because the restaurants that the people are parking in front of have little signs saying no firearms allowed. So rather than getting out, putting them in the trunks, which sort of puts a bullseye on the back of the car, somebody just put a pistol in there. They put it in the glove compartment trying to be quiet about it, and these people know it, and they're stealing firearms, and they've gotten quite a few.
Mm.
So that's not healthy. I mean, if the people are going to leave it in someplace, they're not likely to use it in someplace unless it's to defend the place. So you've got businesses with, I got hit. I had a Porsche, got the passenger window broken out, center console ripped open, and the glove compartment yanked open. They didn't find any,
Mm-hmm.
but it is what it is. So a lot of people have had that happen, and it's not as easy getting firearms as people think. I do like this rule that they have now that's signed into Tennessee law, wherein if you are legal to buy a gun, you are legal to carry the gun.
So what do you think about? I
Actually,
mean,
get a
but do you?
class so you get some training, but I mean, that's another thing. And also, Tennessee basically has reciprocity with a lot of states. So if you have a Tennessee handgun carry permit, there are quite a few other states that will permit you to carry when you are visiting them.
Mm. Yeah, my thing is this though.
That's
I
one
don't really.
advantage.
Yeah, my thing about the perception of Memphis being dangerous city, I think a lot of cities lie about their actual crime numbers. They hide them or they'll manipulate the numbers. The numbers don't lie, but it's how they're presented. The data is presented and interpreted. Because I really don't feel, if I thought that Memphis was so bad, I'd be afraid to go outside, to take out my garbage, to go to the grocery stores. I know you got to be vigilant, especially during the holiday season. But is Memphis really that much worse than any other city in America?
Memphis is 3 cities
Okay.
in a hood, has one of the lowest per capita incomes in the United States of America. East Memphis going out into Germantown and Gardnerville, which has one of the highest per capita incomes in America, and a middle district that is scattered around from Midtown area to various enclaves or eclaves that are scattered around the rest of the metropolitan area. There is too much variance on the city development plan, such as it is, and that's basically because the city council gets benefits, some under and some over the table, from granting zoning variances to the old line interests who make their fortunes by real estate acquisition, real estate management, real estate development, which leads to zoning variances, which get agreements with the city council and the county commission for the taxpayers to pay for the project. The people involved with the first three then get the second two, construction, material supply, and then construction. And they get it paid for, and quite often they get to operate it with a percentage of their net going to the city or the county or both, but that gets zeroed out by smart accountants. So basically, the taxpayers are paying for other people to get rich and getting nothing out of it. The middle class gets nothing, whether it's white, black, brown, red, yellow, and that's a shame because that is causing the discrepancies to vary. I tell people who live in some of the better parts of the town, you need to worry about the lower part of the town because people have cars and they can come out where you live. They're no longer confined. So it behooves everyone to see that things get better. We need to stop glorifying dysfunction. I understand young Dolph is to have Airways Boulevard renamed after him, but then again, I did a little survey and there are a whole lot of 25-year-olds and under who have never heard of young Dolph. So what was he? A gang member who became an entertainer, and he did a few things, but like preachers used to preach, you can't buy your way out of hell when you've earned a good way into it. Not saying he did, but ex-gang members who still have those ties and all kinds of other things that go on, they kind of bring chaos to their entertainments in one sense, and that's not good. We need to start making it popular and the hip thing, the in thing, whatever you want to turn it, to be an employed young man who is earning a living, who is not trying to find some female to simp and pimp off of, and pull their weight. We need young girls who are not trying to emulate being Cardi B or Lizzo and start pushing decency and raising the children that they have rather than talking about they're entitled and need to go party. No, when you have these babies, you commit yourself to raising them, not to having a good time. That's
Well,
later.
Judge, you brought up Young Dolph. I'm gonna bring him up too, but do you feel like this case really gonna be officially solved, or is it gonna be like a Tupac Biggie situation where 25 years later people still talking about what really happened November 17th and
I
who's
haven't been
responsible?
involved in this stuff for a long, long time. Let me say this. If somebody doesn't run their mouth off and there's no personal connection between the shooters or the murderers and the victims, most murders aren't going to be solved. Usually, what happens is somebody's trying to hit on some chick who's a junkie and she wants to get out of a case, so she tells on him. And then, even then, if he kept his mouth shut, they wouldn't have much of a case. But most of these people that get brought in punk out and start squealing, snotting up, and crying, and everything else, and they tell and spill their guts, so they get the case.
I know, like on
Who
social media,
knows?
like, some of these guys very effeminate in terms of how they carry themselves, not necessarily being gay, but just they're very emotional and they're very they trigger, they're easily triggered. But a lot of them seem like they like to snitch on themselves on
Typical
social
hood
media.
rat is a lesbian in a boy's body.
But a lot of them seem like they like to snitch on
I'm just
social
saying, the
media, Judge.
typical hood rat is a lesbian in a boy's body.
Okay.
Lesbian, butch type, sexually, but one's got boy plumbing, one's got girl plumbing, and if a fairy something or another waved a magic wand and the lesbian woke up with a penis tomorrow, there'd be no difference. See, manliness is making where you live like and prey off of it or poison it. And a lot of that drug thing is just people don't want to say, hey, let me take this pistol, bam, or take a heavy overdose and kill myself right off. They want to do it in a socially acceptable way. And somebody says, oh my God, drugs have claimed another victim in South Memphis. No, some fool was not trying to get high, he was trying to die. And going around messing with everybody is a form of the same kind of suicide that they've labeled suicide by a cop. You want to die, but you can't bang on yourself. So what you do is you don't provoke a cop, you provoke one of your neighbors to kill you. Meanwhile, if you take his life, so what? You don't care because you don't like your uncle.
Yeah, my thing about the Young Dolph, like it was a street naming, but it was not an official street change. It was an honorary street naming. So, because I'm understanding the black and
Yes.
gold is honorary, and the green and white is the official street. So it's still Airways and Dunn and all that. But I had a chance to go to the street naming ceremony, and I talked to Young Dolph parents and thanked them for not, I guess, pulling out and swallowing, because he was a crack baby. He talked about being a crack baby. So he was really a miracle. He was the rose that grew from concrete. And he was about family. Like, he really believed, he loved his children. He distanced himself from people in his inner circle who did not take care of their family. He said, if you can't take care of your
Well,
family,
yes.
you're not a man. You're not a king. So
Well,
it's like, but at the
man,
same time, Judge,
well,
these guys are millionaires and they're dying like this. These entertainers. I can't imagine Jackie Wilson and
here's the
Sam
thing that
Cooke
I
fighting
have a
like this,
problem with.
or Otis Redding and James Brown
My
like
problem,
this.
I've been here a half century, and I've been here a half century. I'm still waiting for them to name a street after A.L.L, a street after H.T. Lockett, a street after Russell Sugarman. You see, some of these greats who broke down some of the barriers so we all can go where we all want to be in this town. We haven't honored them. A.W. Willis has a bridge going over to Mud Island across from the pyramid. He's another one. And there are some greats in this town who've received no honor. I think that's a shame. There are some things that I want to point out to all of those out there who are contemplating their immediate life and they're in their late teens, early 20s. Young Dolph was an entertainer.
Judge,
Not
your
per
sound.
se kicking
Hey,
down
it
doors.
came. Judge, can you start back over? Your sound came in and out when you was talking about Young Dolph.
Okay, that's strange when we start talking about these things. Young Dolph wasn't necessarily a bad person. I don't know him, but he was an entertainer. And understand, entertainers are not making your world better. They aren't kicking in the doors. They aren't breaking down the barriers. They aren't changing the laws. They aren't going out and doing the organization. And there's still this problem with 30 some shots, 20 some shots, or 200, depending upon the source, fired into your van limo in North Carolina. And there's still the thing about getting shot 3 times out in Hollywood before you finally get gunned down at a cookie shop on Airways Boulevard. What's going on here? We have some older generation entertainers around here that are notorious to those who know them and know above them for cutting corners, and they owe a lot of people a lot of money, and they owe all those sums for various nefarious reasons. Now, one other point is that you reap what you sow. And sometimes you can't get away from what you have laid out as a foundation early in life. It comes back to haunt you.
Mm.
Now, giving away a few turkeys is one thing, but how many are going to give away 100? That's 100 people. There are a lot of things around this town that need to be dealt with that impact tens of thousands of people. And what about the manhood? Look at what happened out here at one of our local high schools that selected for homecoming queen somebody that ought to have been on the football team. What's going on with that? I won't mention them, but we know who we're talking about. What's going on with to what used to be a decent family restaurant, and now it's turned into a 5-star Section 8. Somebody's yelling from one side of the parking lot about to the other about did you get some Timbadica last night? You know, or what happens when you walk into a restaurant and there are a number of women sitting at a table with 7 or 8 brats with them who are out of control, running all over the restaurant, creating havoc, and there's no discipline, and people are getting ready to leave because they didn't come in to pay good money to put up with that. You see, what about those things? Those kind of negatives need to be changed, and the community needs to act like it respects itself. Our police department is no longer under civilian control. The current mayor has abrogated his responsibility for it. We don't have any local precincts that got wiped out a few years ago. We don't have any block captains, any communications, so that what goes on that is not supposed to go on can be immediately communicated. We don't have an appropriate police liaison. We don't have any mechanism of bringing the two together, the community that needs the policing and the police department is charged with the responsibility. We have idiots talking about defunding the police department nationally, and that's become a local talking point too, yet we have enormous, very violent crime going on. Those two things don't fit. We've got an administration in the White House who hasn't done a damn thing to make anything better. Now, it is what it is. Now, I've spoken against certain organizations that I think are cults. I'm not talking about some who are associated with them by some of the sexual practices they have. That's your business. Do in your bedroom what you want to do. That nobody has any right to come in there and intrude. But when you start trying to teach that to 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds instead of manliness and responsibility, bravery and courage, that's a public matter, and that's open to commentary. That's open to pushback. When you start talking about things that cause jobs to be lost in the area, that's open to commentary. When you don't do what needs to be done to improve the energy posture of this place, that needs to be talked about. That's getting into another matter. When you do something that is allowing a dangerous pipeline to run through this area and nothing comes back to the people who live in the area or in the city or metropolitan area as a whole, that's open to commentary. When you have people who actively block the increase in barge trafficking coming in directly from Europe, that needs commentary and pushback. When you do things that keep industry from coming in here, that needs pushback. When you start spending hundreds of millions of the taxpayers' dollars for the benefit of a few people that result in boondoggles like the Pyramid and Beale Street Landing and a few other things that have been built at taxpayers' expense for private industry to run, with no profit going to the citizens, then that's bad. Why don't we do something about setting up a program for small businessmen and use some of the, well, $200 or $300 million worth of funding that we spend out every year for obscene purposes for the benefit of a few who get rich at the tax trough rather than the people having benefit? Why is it that we have allowed our school charter from the city of Memphis to be surrendered to the county, and now the county has allowed a private entity to take over the whole process, which extends from educating, training, selecting, and assigning and paying the school teachers? So now the school teachers don't even need a 4-year degree, just a 2-year associate degree. And they have no retirement benefits if they hire on now. And they get paid more by starting at the post office than they do working as school teachers. So how did that come to be?
I mean, I'm not
People
thinking
gonna
about
do
Memphis.
when they grow up.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking about Memphis. They want people to be they're smart enough just to throw boxes around the factory by design, because Memphis is not really poor, it's by design. He got too many resources for it to be really poor. Lack of vision, yes, but by design as well. So I don't know what it's going to take but a
Well, I don't
full-fledged
even think it's
revolution.
lack of design. I think I'm not even gonna be that charitable. I think it's outright stupidity and culpability and venality. See, there are too many people that I am acquainted with, some of whom are in political office now. I've known since they were in elementary school, and I was grown at the time. And they look at it as everybody's been doing this for years. It's our turn to get the gravy. No, it's not to go in and cheat the taxpayers. It's your job to go in and deliver good government. And you don't become a politician to get rich. You do it because it's the right thing. Now, a point I learned in the fifth grade when I went to school in California, was that one of the reasons that the South had such corrupt politics was that the politicians had part-time jobs that were low paying for the responsibilities that they held. So that means they had to have a full-time job, which required them to divide their time. And secondarily, when you had this very demanding, poor-paying part-time job, there was a very great temptation to use it to supplement your income, which is what happens. And too many of the people that hold office now either are lackadaisical, they aren't the brightest bulb in the room, one, or B, or two, they got too much into the Q factor as an LGBTQ for queer or questioning. They question and now they're in closets and don't want to get outed, or they've been taking stuff under the table and they've been compromised and people are holding it over them. This juvenile court down here we have, which is a Memphis and Shelby County juvenile court, which is a unique creature in Tennessee, where it combines a city or municipal court with a county court. I have seen over the years personally and observed the written records. It's an instrument that's used for blackmail and extortion, and it needs to be cleaned up. However, the current DA we have is not going to do anything about straightening that up. And in fact, that DA should be held accountable for some forms of what might be called corruption herself. So TBI needs to come in here. And one of the other things is how you're going to get appreciation for justice and following the law if the chief law enforcement officer in the county has 28,000 untested rape kits, is agreeing to a boondoggle with another somebody that was a former DA to get paid almost $1 million for vetting these tests and paying a New York New York firm millions of dollars to test them, when TBI says we can come in here and get them tested in a month free of charge. That's not good for the people that live here.
But do you think that the people get the
And
representation in government
somebody,
that they deserve? You think people getting the
well, we
representation that they
discussed
deserve?
that. That's an old saying. And in the American system, you get the representation you deserve. And the people need to buck up, stand up, and move it up. We've got to do something. We got to stop being so lackadaisical and uninvolved. We have got to stop this thing of waiting until election day and then walking up to the polls and handing out, not handing out, but getting sample ballots handed to us by the usual suspects, some of whom are just as corrupt, some of whom have been to the penitentiary and are convicted felons, and voting the way they tell us to vote based on these sample ballots. Like we had a Joe McCarty here. Joe McCarty was judge of Division 8 of the Shelby County, well, the Memphis, excuse me, the Tennessee criminal courts in Shelby County. This man had been former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in this area and chairman of the White Citizens Council, yet because he was on the Ford ballots and other ballots every time, he always got the black bloc vote. The man was mentally unbalanced, amongst other things, and yes, he was crazy. And we kept giving him our black bloc vote, and no justice was delivered in the courtroom he ran. However, he's now dead. And there are a number of criminal court judges that do not need the black vote. The black people between now and next summer, when those positions will be on the ballot, need to start looking into who's running and who needs to stay there and who does not. There are some good people and there are some that don't need to be on the bench. And I would also do this. I am strongly supporting Ms. Harris running for district attorney's office. Ms. Harris was a lady cop starting back in 1979. She did street patrols. She knows the neighborhoods. She went to law school. She became a federal prosecutor. Then she became a damn fine defense lawyer. Now she's running for DA, and we ought to support her. Linda Harris.
But isn't like running for office more about popularity and name recognition than about actual results and qualifications?
Be results. That's the name of the game. You see, that's what I said about you get the representation to serve. If you've been a lazy son of a bitch, then you get lazy son of a bitches representing you.
I think people like to be comfortable in their misery, though, to be honest with you. I mean, people like what
well,
they know,
I don't.
the comforts of, even when it's mediocre.
They bitch about it often enough. Quit complaining and do something about it. And all you got to do, I mean, is COVID-19. You're not supposed to be running around everywhere right now. Show some discretion. And meanwhile, when you have the extra time, take it upon yourself to start reading up on what's up.
I don't, like you talked about, I've been going to restaurants and seeing them women with them all them kids running around, running wild, even going out and trying to deal with our young people. If you're afraid to even approach the young people and tell them, hey, you might want to do something, don't do that, and they'll curse you out or do something worse to you. I'm somebody, it's like,
well,
you see young black males, I
tell them all the time, young man, I don't think you need to do that. Who the hell you think you are, Judge Joe Brown? You Judge Joe Brown? Well, see, you get a rep. But then again, you might go out with some of your homeboys like, hey, don't do this. You see, quite frankly, some of the grown men need to beat the shit out of some of these young men and show them what public peace, dignity, and order is. That might be playing kamikaze, but it needs to happen. And some of these grown men who have decent records and no criminal backgrounds need to be armed. And some of us need to continue with our studies in the manly art of self-defense. I've been taking martial arts for 55 years. I told somebody, I said, it'd be very embarrassing if a 70-something-year-old man whipped your young ass, wouldn't it?
Well, the problem with the young people, though, be honest with you, I just had a high school classmate. Her nephew just got killed because he won a fight. He beat the dude up, and the dude went to get his friends and a gun or two, and they shot him up. I mean, you can't even, because like everybody got this participation trophy.
If you jack somebody
they're not used to losing. They don't know how to lose with dignity.
Once you make
that's the problem.
You see, once you make the strike, you leave. Don't leave a target there. And then you call the police.
But the problem with these kids,
this dude attacked me, and I had to defend myself. And from looking at the videos, most of these guys can't fight anyway.
That's the problem too. But I'm saying they can't take a loss either. That's the problem. Yeah. they don't know how to, like, I'm gonna lick my wounds and come back and try again, or just forget about it and be friends, or just don't be
Oh, they
friends.
punked
But
out. They lack manhood.
yeah, that's the problem. That's what I'm talking about. They don't know
The
how to take a
problems
loss.
is I used some years ago, 25 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I found out very quickly these guys would not fist fight toe to toe. Get to talking about their pretty faces and their game with the ladies. No, man, that sounds punked out, man. You ain't fist fight. You can't handle one. You may get your ass whipped, but I mean, the point is at least you put up a good one, and the person you fought with knows that there is going to be some damage that accrues if you get into one. So shake hands, and you resolved it. See, they got all these. See, what's going on is 40 some years ago, 45 years ago, 40 years ago, 38 years ago, what you're looking at is crazy mama living over in the projects got mad at the next door neighbor because the next door neighbor made eyes at her boyfriend of the time, who she broke up with 2 weeks later and hadn't seen in a year and a half, but she's kept a grudge, so she throws some battery acid in the next door neighbor's face just to be
Mm.
evil.
Wow.
See, that's what we see. There's no man to man punch it out. It's this stuff where you throw battery acid or boiling grits and molasses in somebody's face because you just plain evil. You playing bitch.
Yeah, but Judge, look at what's going on this generation and younger, where you
Well,
got
you got to do
multimillionaire.
something about it.
Well, I'm just saying you
What we
got
gonna do?
somebody like
Let this
Young.
stuff keep going?
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, you got rappers like Young Dolph. These are multimillionaire guys. They successful, but yet they still be bickering and arguing over beef. And everybody making money. Why y'all upset or angry? You got a guy named Black Youngster who's a grown man, right? He made a diss song about Young Dolph. He did a video recently showing him basically pissing on Young Dolph's grave, this Thornton thing in the back of this mausoleum. And people say, well, he's making a diss track about Young Dolph. He's a millionaire. And he never, my understanding, he never met Young Dolph, but he's defending his boss of his label, Yo Gotti, who had issues with Young Dolph. But these guys are multi-millionaires. I couldn't imagine Sam Cooke trying to fight Jackie Wilson or
Look, look,
Otis
look,
Redding
look.
getting into it with James Brown and trying to kill each other.
But Otis Redding and Jackie Wilson weren't multimillionaires. You have to understand there's a worldwide market out there because the Western world has been trying to destroy traditional masculinity for a number of reasons. All over the world, from Japan to Moscow, from Beijing to Berlin to Paris, there are young males who want the trappings of masculinity. Hip hop gangster rap video satisfies it very well. So they do this techno stuff for the last 25 years. They've been jumping up and down in place all out of rhythm to the music, but they know gangster rap, hardcore video. So the people that finance it and distribute it don't want it changed because don't mess with a proven product. Actually, what you see in most of the rap video that you don't see that much of now isn't very masculine, it's feminine. And the women up there, contrary to what the feminists want to claim, are not some object of sexual fantasies by the rapper. They are his grandmama, aunts, and mama. And if you found grandmama, aunts, and mama out and back of where they live in July with mama knit booty shorts on and little halters, it might not look quite as good, but they'd be trying to act and dress the same as the dancers on stage. So that's his June Cleaver, and it's a little sick. Oedipus looms. So
I mean,
it's really kind of weird, the sickness that's out there. And it hasn't changed in 40 years. People, oh, it's changed a lot. No, it hasn't. It's fundamentally the same. There's a historical fact. For the 20th century, music changed about every 10 to 15 years significantly. It hasn't, except the lyrics have gotten foul. Worse, But I mean, rap is just basically poetry to music gotten taken to an extreme degree. Hell, you can go back to Louis Armstrong and say he rapped, only he played his own accompaniment of trumpet. And you've got Gil Scott Heron from up here in Jackson, Tennessee, with the Jazz Messengers back in 1968, 9, 70, 71, 72. And they had conscientious rap. You had that little ego pity teddy bear rap that you had back in the late mid 70s, and the whole thing really got interesting when in New York they had these block parties, and you'd have somebody spin records and they'd start talking on the microphone while they were spinning records, and then they had contests in New York to see who had the best dialogue, and that's how rapping started as it's known now, but most people don't know that.
But
I heard
people trying to
some
say
of
that
it
rap was
live.
invented in Jamaica, Judge. We think about that. They're trying to say that rap started in Jamaica, hip hop. What's your take on
I
that?
don't buy that, but I would say this. There is an exchange between the Caribbean Americans and Black Caribbean Americans and Black Americans. And a great deal of that has to do with the fact that the United States, Jamaica man, Bahamas, Barbados man, all used to be English colonies,
Mm-hmm.
part of the same thing. So there is a connection. The main difference is that in the early mid 19th century, the Maroons in Jamaica got themselves free. They didn't need an Emancipation Proclamation and 13th Amendment. So it is what it is. It all comes from the same place.
Okay, that's a good note. But yeah, but I just like it's weird now because 50 years ago you had a Curtis Mayfield, a Marvin Gaye. They was balanced. You don't have balance no more. It seems of this music, especially this rap stuff right now. And what do you think
No, you
about all these
don't.
rappers getting killed lately? Not just Young Dolph, but you had the one in L.A. got killed on the concert. Draco the
You reap
Ruler, I
what you
believe.
sow. There are some traditional ones around here, like Al Green owes a whole lot of people a lot of money. And sometimes when they run into him at an airport and say, hey, man, he turns around and runs down the concourse.
He said Jesus is calling though.
Yeah, I guess Jesus come, boy, you better come here. The sound of my voice.
Do you think he had something to do with that
I
girl getting
named
killed
his
in his
name
house,
because
his
he owes
mansion?
me some big money too. But I wouldn't do that to him. I'm not that kind of person.
Al Green had that situation
And
with the
some
old
others
girl.
might.
You think he had something to do with that old girl dying,
Mm-hmm.
or you think that she killed herself in his mansion?
I don't know.
See, I heard
Wasn't
all
part
types
of
of
my
stories about
business.
that. Uh-huh.
See, what you're talking about used to be my day-to-day business. That's work.
Yeah. But it's
Look,
Memphis is a like you
I think I handled 42 first-degree murder cases as a defense lawyer where the death penalty was demanded, and I used to train the capital defense team for the public defender's office. Here in
Mhm.
Tennessee, they have a thing where even if you can afford an attorney on a first-degree murder case, if you can't afford two, you're entitled to have one appointed, but you can't sit as even the second chair defense counsel on a capital murder case if you don't have X number of jury trials for robberies, rapes, burglaries, that kind of thing under your belt. So I'd always sit as first chair while somebody broke in as second chair. And then you can't be first chair lead counsel in one of these cases until you've been supervised as such by somebody that knows what he's doing. So I would sit as first to second chair and then had my own cases I tried as in private practice. And I tried a whole lot of other murder cases, and none of my clients are on death row. But, murder was my business. So, yeah, but I mean, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm retired.
Let me ask you this way.
All
We talking
about
about
it.
entertainers. Well, we talking about. Do you think it's unusual for like record labels to take out big insurance policies on their entertainers, like Young Dolph allegedly, the record label
No,
they hit in business with?
the CBS had a 10 or $20 million insurance policy on my life. Hell, they make a lot of money. You look at as a talent, and the show or the thing you do is looked at as a property.
So that's not unusual. So something
Money.
happened, an accident, people shouldn't be suspicious. Oh, they got a big insurance policy on these people.
That's been the case for years. Like, for example, the guy that started all this craziness in news reporting, so it is not news reporting, but on the spot, instantaneous editorialization,
Mm-hmm.
was from L.A. George Putnam.
Okay.
George Putnam was on KTLA, no, excuse me, KTTV Channel 11 in L.A. And this reporter's humble opinion. He'd start that in the early 60s. How did he get to that? He was independent because he was Amelia Earhart's husband and he took out a $10 million insurance policy on her life back in the 1930s. And
Wow.
when she disappeared, he was a wealthy man. 10 million was a lot of money back then.
Oh
Anything
yeah.
he wanted. He was in the industry till he was in the 90s. And he started all that nonsense. He even had a guy named Tommy, black guy he hired in the mid 60s.
Mm.
Tommy, don't you think you're being a little harsh with your people here? I mean, some of what they do is understandable. George, they just make me so mad. They got into this now
Wow.
where you don't get news, you get somebody's opinion to push their agenda because it's propaganda. And I heard them 50 years ago carefully plotting out how they were going to take control of the news media, entertainment, and certain aspects of finance and business so that they could get their agenda pushed. It's anti-man, and that's one of the problems that we have now is too much of what's out there is anti-man. And you see, you need that element of manhood to make society peaceful. Now, granted, sometimes the overall effect is not too peaceful because to be a human on this planet Earth requires that things die.
Mm-hmm.
Now and then I like to assert myself at the top of the food chain and I like to eat a piece of meat. So something has to die. Every now and then, you need a reminder that there are a lot of things that used to love humans as a breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight snack. And they don't anymore, and they are endangered because we put them in check. And the
Mm-hmm.
same creature, just like tigers, lions, panthers, grizzly bears, black bear, polar bear, everything out there that kills for a living, sometimes when it gets competitive, it kills itself. So you have the skill of the hunter wrapped up with the zest of the warrior. And some people need killing. And I
Mm.
kid you not, that's why we have warriors and the death penalty. And on more than one occasion, the news media was all hot to see blood when the jury was deliberating on the fate of some defendant accused of murder. And the jury came back with a question several times. Your Honor, if we feel the victim deserved killing, do we have to convict the defendant?
Mm. Let me ask you about the what's her name? Is it Kim Potter, the Minnesota cop that's on trial right now? Did they rest already? Are they deciding her fate? What's your take on that case? You know what I'm talking about, the lady who said she thought she grabbed her taser, but actually grabbed a gun and shot the Wright brother. I guess I forgot
Well,
his
let's put
name.
it this way it's a training failure. It may
Even though
be
she
a
was a 20 plus year veteran.
lie. May be a lie, but here's the thing it doesn't make a difference. The typical cop looks at a pistol, his taser, like most of us would look at a big ballpoint pen. It's a
Okay.
tool. Some of them get into it and they pay more attention, and it becomes something of a sword, an instrument to be revered and paid attention to. Others, the only time they go out and shoot is a little while before they have to requalify, and that's it. And I know that some officers have confided to me in other jurisdictions that they reached for a pistol thinking they were reaching for a taser, or they reached and got a taser instead of what they thought was pepper spray, or vice versa. Or some who got to that middle level of training, they realized they had unholstered their sidearm when they only intended to get something else. Sometimes it gets to be what you do when the shit hits the fan. How cool
So
are
how?
you under fire? Is the adrenaline pumping? You get tunnel
Mhm.
vision. You see, I mean, maybe it was evil. Maybe it was just negligence. Maybe it was an outright mistake. Maybe it was an insufficiency of training.
But even after 20 something years, you think she could make that type of mistake? I mean, like looking at the video,
Yes.
it's like I don't know, man.
One of the things that's inherently wrong with the whole taser concept is that they tried to design it so it would be something that required little cross training between a firearm and using the non lethal stuff. So if a person was good with one, they were good with the other. So that's confusing under the pressure. And see, most guys used to have a lifetime history of fist fights on the playground, behind the bar or the roadhouse, and they were used to it. A lot of them had come out of the war and been shot at, so they were used to being under fire. But now you have women involved in these things, and though some of them come out of the Middle East, hot times in the sand pile, 20-year veteran, she might not be acclimated to what happens when it really hits the fan.
Mm. Should
So,
women
I
be
mean,
out?
it's plausible.
Well, should we have women
I
officers
don't
out?
know.
Should we have women officers out in the field as police? Should they be in the field or in the office?
Well, let me put it this way. At one point, that was a good way of diffusing something between two males. A woman's present. There used to be a thing. Hey, man, watch your mouth. There's a woman present. Oh, where? Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were in here. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
man, be quiet, man. Dude's mom is here. Oh, man, I'm sorry, man. Ma'am, oh, ma'am, I didn't see you. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, since they've tried to evaporate the distinctions, it's kind of who's going to whip who. And you're bringing these young men back with the idea that a woman can take a bullet just as well as they can if they're in a hot combat zone. So I don't know, all bets are off. But we did it to ourselves. It's supposed to be a resource to be protected at all costs, not sacrificed. See, a guy can go off and have his babies and die in the defense of his people, and his seed goes on. A woman, he's supposed to be the one there left to take care of him once the guy gets done in, if he gets done in.
So women, you don't think women should be on the front lines in the military either, right?
No, I don't.
Okay.
They're too important to the next generations.
I don't know. They're not raising them too well. You
Sometimes
can't
it
go to
may be
restaurants.
unavoidable. I
I don't know.
know,
Women
but
not raising them
that
too
can be
well right now.
undone.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I know they're not. And see, one of the things I think needs to be done is there needs to be a tax wise disincentive to having a bunch of kids out of wedlock. There needs to be some legislation that makes it better for the parties involved to be married. They need to do something about making divorce less easy than it is. And there's some other things they could do that just require legislation to start implementing. They could start teaching in schools, but that would require some folk with enough spine to overcome the idiots who don't want that. Where you've got maybe 4.5% of the population that wants to push poison on the rest of it because they don't like themselves. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
there are gay people I'm acquainted with that think LGBTQ is a cult. And just like all black people aren't Baptist, all black people aren't Democrats. Some follow Islam, some are independent, some are Republicans, some don't even get involved. Some are United Methodists, some are Episcopalians, some are Methodists. Uh, Everybody that's gay doesn't have to be part of the cult. when something starts influencing the expenditure of tax dollars or public influencing public policy, they're just as subject to pushback as anyone else. And like somebody said, this is somebody gay repeated this one to me. Said, it's weird looking at these guys. They can't even take a joke. How they gonna take a stiff one up their ass?
You know what, Judge? I had talked to some medical professionals about, the health secretary is Rachel Levine. And it's like, to me, it's the inmates running the asylum. It's over, man. I'm just throwing in the towel. He's like you said,
A
his brand and
mentally ill
circus is
person
going
is
wild,
Surgeon
man.
General of the United States of America. See, it's one thing being gay. It's another thing calling yourself a woman because you hate being a man. That is such obvious, open, and yet subliminal self-hate that it's almost just too pathetic to even, it's like, what the devil went wrong here? Duty, honor, obligation. They don't teach that.
The
See,
title, his title, though,
man,
Judge.
See, that's bad. See, it's like this. If you're born a man, you gotta have duty, honor, obligation, and responsibility to man up, buck up, step up, and do what you're supposed to do. If you're a woman, you have the same one. Your obligation is to do the things that women can do and those other things too. You get judged by history on basically what you do. That's a fundamental thing. I hate to say it. The scheme that has evolved on this planet over 4 some billion years is sexual reproduction. That requires a male and a female. You can't have the next generation without both. When you have both, I mean, there's some asexual reproduction in some of the lower slimy stuff, but on our level, it requires both, and that requires a commitment by both entities to do their part. Now, maybe biologically you're designed for it, but there's something wrong with it, and you can't still do your part to make it better because you're likely to have brothers and sisters as you become an aunt and an uncle.
Oh, Judge, somebody said some manifesting dreams. The TV judge really need to watch what he's saying if he's running for office. Yeah, he could help law enforcement vote, but we all know the black vote will swing an election. I mean, like, you
I'm
talking
not
about
watching
women.
what I say because, God damn it, somebody has to tell the damn truth instead of feeding you a bunch of garbage mental drugs. You need to know what's going on. This stuff is not good for you. It has led to the current state of affairs when you have destroyed manhood. I don't care whether somebody butt fuck, sucks dick, eats pussy, or whatever in the hell they do in their own bedrooms. That's their damn business and their right. But damn it, you need to act like a man or a woman. If you don't, to hell with you. I don't want you. The election because I'm telling the truth. It's your damn loss. Get some more of this sorry bullshit you got down there right now that makes it unsafe to walk the street. No industry in here, no educational excellence, and your neighborhoods are falling down, crumbling up, and some idiots are running around talking about they're trying to be politically correct, which isn't doing a damn thing.
Wow. Well, Judge, you a man with no fear, man. You have no fear.
Feel good. I don't need this damn job. I'm self-sufficient for the rest of my life. I don't need this. This is an obligation.
Well, the judge has spoken, y'all.
Chill and enjoy what I've got left. And if you son of a bitches don't want your damn fool self saved, or let's put it this way, get an avenue so you can save your damn self, then go fuck yourself.
Judge, hey, I guess, hey, the people you have spoken, Judge.
That idiot text you got.
Yeah, people like we need this type of pushback. It's time for we need some balance, we need some leverage, and we need people like you. We need more people standing up behind you just to support the right for you to say what you're saying. Not necessarily always agreeing with everything, but support the right for you to say it.
Other thing too, I challenge anybody running in this mayor's race to walk by themselves when it starts getting dark in the neighborhoods that represent part of their constituency without a police escort.
I mean, young Dolph tried to do that. You see, he got killed in broad daylight, though, Judge.
Young Dolph can't do what I can do.
Not even. I mean, he's dead now, but yeah, but
I'm taking somebody to Valhalla with my ass if it goes down like that.
I hear you.
My goddamn John Wick on, and I can do it better than what you see in the movies.
I heard that. Are you gonna check out the Matrix movie, Resurrections?
Yes, I am. And another thing too, if you're doing something, don't turn your back on a plate glass window in a big business with nobody watching your six.
You know what happened, Judge? They said that he took a phone call right before he got killed, that he was distracted by a phone call. I want to know who made that phone call to him. Maybe that might be a lead.
Anybody, I get a bunch of them all day long from all kinds of sources, including from you, young brother. So, phone calls are phone calls. But it's how you take the phone calls and you watch your six. Be situationally aware. Not saying somebody can't get the drop on you.
Yeah, I mean, but everybody. I mean, you have presidents got killed with security guard. I mean, Secret Service and stuff. I mean, if they want you, they could get you eventually.
If somebody wants to go play kamikaze, they can go get you. Sixth Fleet couldn't stop the kamikazes. The Seventh Fleet and Fifth Fleet couldn't either. But it is what it is. But
Yeah, but I mean, but Memphis is like, people talking about it's the wild, wild west out here because everybody can carry a gun, it seems, without any problem.
it's more people need to carry them. See, here's the thing: where was young Dolph's pistol?
He supposed to had a Judge. You breaking up a little bit. You breaking up a little bit.
Why wasn't he armed? If he could buy one, he could carry one in Tennessee. Didn't he have Tennessee as his residence?
I think he had a gun. I'm not sure. I think he had guns sometimes, but sometimes you might not be able to react in time. And he supposed to have a bodyguard with him, but I don't know.
Then practice until you can.
Say it again, Judge.
You can. You're supposed to be proficient enough to put a quarter on the back of your hand, draw and fire before the quarter hits the ground with whatever you packing it in.
Yeah, but if you're distracted by a phone call and people running, not telling you what's going on.
You're supposed to get distracted. Situational awareness. You walk down a jungle trail, you get distracted. The jaguar, the panther, the lion, and the tiger is going to have you for a meal.
I hear you. Yes, sir. But people get killed in churches and barbershops and movie theaters. And
should have been armed. I know a lot of armed preachers personally. They're always packing heat.
Oh, it's Memphis, man. I hear you.
Some of them, they need to stop screwing all those women in the congregation because it might be somebody's wife, but
Okay, let me ask you about that, Judge. Why would you get mad at the preacher? Why not get mad at your wife versus the preacher? You're the one that chose to sleep with the preacher. Why do dudes get mad at the guys that mess with their women, not mad at the women?
Wife has been conditioned. Well, they need to get mad at both. See, here's the thing. The wife has been conditioned by her mama, grandmama, and aunts and great aunts to look at the preacher as a sexual object. That goes back to slavery. One of the secrets to enslavement was to also have the preacher as your stud to increase your livestock. So get a young man 18 to 25 who was fit to be the stud, make him the preacher. And when you watched what your slave congregations were doing and they got happy and rolled on the ground and shouted, they were going to come into estrus in a few days. So have the slave preacher go visit them. Let's say it's 1860 and there's a 21-year-old, 20-year-old slave preacher who's privy to that. 50 years later, it's 1910. He's still doing it, and that tradition is spread to the mothers, grandmothers, and all of their relatives in the church. And he gets replaced by somebody who carries on the tradition until 1960. So that's just one removed from the slave preacher. When the preacher takes over in 1960, the third one, he's effectively the grandson of the slave preacher, and that habit still goes on in the church. And I know some preachers personally. Some of them were friends of mine from when they drank whiskey in their 20s, and now they have congregations. and they get the nookie, and a lot of these women are hurting for the lack of it. They want some love, and they wear no panties when they sit in the front rows of church and short skirts, and they manage the gap so the preacher and the deacon board can be sure to see the sights.
And the marathon continues, man. It's something. So, like, I look at Memphis as interest because a lot of people that they're good at rhetoric. You know, Memphis produces fair share of preachers, pimps, and lawyers. Sometimes one person could be all three at the same time, but it's like a lot of rhetoric signifying nothing. Nothing ever gets done in Memphis that really benefits the majority. It seems like.
We need some new black young lawyers who are not afraid to take the case.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you they can't afford to jeopardize their career. And I tell them, what's wrong with you? That's how you get a career, by taking, you play David and you slay Goliath. You can't
Mm-hmm.
run around scared. You have to take these cases. Like one of them that they need to take on right now is this voting machine problem. There's an election 2020 which won't be fair for a number of offices unless the county commission sees to it that all of these voting machines are replaced. And anybody that doesn't vote for replacing these voting machines needs to be turned out of office. And then under 2023, there's no point in running for mayor if these voting machines aren't replaced. Three separate administrations, Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations, have had justice departments that have said the elections have been hacked around here since 2000. The voting machines rely on Windows 2000 technology. There's never been a security system. There's never been a firewall. There are no upgrades available. The whole system is dead. It has to be replaced. And guess what? 2008, that's 13 years ago, the feds put the money up. It's been sitting in bank accounts, and the bank's been getting well off charging bank fees every month, month in, year out, because the county commission won't spend it. And every time the matter comes up to a vote is a simple resolution. We, the below sign, hereby resolve to replace the deball voting machines.
Mm-hmm.
At least 3 black Democrats refuse to vote for the change. So what time is that?
Mm. So
In
will you
other
be able?
words, the Justice Department, one of them, came up with a conclusion on one of their ongoing reports of, this is not an election process in Shelby County. This is a selection. In other words, they who know how to hack control who gets elected. And guess what? California put a pamphlet out online on how to hack the machines. All you need is the encryption code, and occasionally I publish it just so it'll be out there so people can say, well, the judge put it out there so it's obvious people can corruptly control an election like he said. All you need is a smartphone. So when are we going to do something about it? Lazy. Get up off our asses and stop smoking a blunt on the sofa playing vid games tapes. And what about you young lawyers that want to make something of yourself? Why don't you take on some of these cases? Don't you live here, and isn't your vote impacted, or you think you are immune?
I just think the best model for a lot of these lawyers is I guess Ben Crump right now for their generation. Ben Crump is the
No,
Johnny
I
Carson.
don't. I
I
don't.
mean,
I
he's the
don't.
hot one right now.
You know why I don't? Settling these cases for chump change and try some of them. 1984, Willie Gary, now 74 years old, semi-retired down in Boca Raton, Florida, a black man,
Mm-hmm.
put
Hey, Judge, you
himself
breaking
through
up? We can't hear
college,
you. Like you going in and
got the
out. You said talking about
largest
Willie
jury
Gary.
verdict in the entire history of the United States. 700. Willie Gary got a $780 million verdict that stood up on appeal. 1984. He's
Okay.
gotten 4 of the top 10 largest jury verdicts in American history and 5 or 6 of the largest settlements in American history. And I do not consider the city in question had a limit of $250 million on their liability policy, getting 28 million out of a case like that to be a significant accomplishment. Try the case. And if you don't know how, try some cases and learn how to find and learn how to do it. It's an art to it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people in the younger generations lost the fight. There's a resignation among a lot of people right now. Some type of malaise.
Things are too easy. That's what my generation did in the last part of the generation before mine. My generation got started being birthed in 1946. We ended in 1966. So the end of the one before and those afterwards, they understood the depression, hardship, and privation, and they were determined that they and theirs would not be so deprived. But I guess things got made too easy, and now everybody looks at it as a matter of entitlement. There shouldn't be adversity and struggle, but the whole world, the whole process of being alive on the planet Earth is one of adversity, continuously overcoming adversarial conditions. By the way, that's exciting. You don't have that, you lead a pretty dull and boring life.
That's Manifesting Dreams TV in the chat. Let them go ahead through, y'all. I don't think he meant any disrespect. I know people, I got some moderators, they're doing a pretty good job, but I try to make sure that people have some type of leeway to speak their mind without being disrespectful. So
Sure.
I'm not really watching.
I don't care if they're
Black Voltron
disrespectful. They
Reloaded, and a
might
lot
get
of other
some
people doing a good
comeback.
job. Sir?
I don't care if they want to do that. We used to have amusement in elementary, junior high, and high school. We'd run to dozens. We'd talk about everybody's mama. That was one of our recreations.
Somebody talking about people moms getting upset. It's something about your mama comebacks, though. It get people really upset for whatever reason.
No, that used to be a hobby we had. We'd all gather around. Some of us were better than others. It's a witty repartee.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is the thing. I don't think people
don't tell your daddy, man, that I was by your house the other night, man. Didn't tell you, but me and your mama was working because your dad was on the late shift, man.
Yeah, but people can't take jokes anymore, though. Like I said, like it's thin skin, cancel culture type of thing. You can't joke about things anymore. Yeah, they killed the Memphis rapper for joking about Young Dolph dying.
I know. See, that's wrong. But you
allegedly,
see,
I don't know if
wouldn't have
that's
been able
true.
to handle Richard
saying.
Pryor, Red Fox, and all that other stuff. And like some gay person I am acquainted with said, how they gonna take a stiff one up the ass if they can't even take a good joke?
I agree, man. You got to develop, but like you said earlier before, like everybody, there's no such thing as a loser. Everybody wins participation trophies. So when it comes to fighting, people don't know how to fight and lose with some type of pride and dignity, and say, you know what, I lost. You whooped me this time. There's live to fight another day versus I'm gonna go back get my gun and my boys to kill you.
Well, you know what it is. They need to have taken martial arts as boys so they learn how to fight as men. See, that's some bitch shit, the way they go around all this. They got to pop a cap on somebody because they're angry. Go fight the person. Punch it out.
Yeah, but I know as I get older, I see why older folks carry guns, because you don't heal right. You might get hurt. You ain't gonna heal like you used to when you was younger. You gotta be careful. I see some young guys with guns in their pockets and stuff. They get high. I saw a couple guys that get high. They out getting some chicken and waffles. They got guns in their pockets. I don't know how old they are. They look like they're young. But one guy he had a gun in his pocket.
Well, see, the last time I did something physical, I was in February 2013. It was in an upscale restaurant bar in Aspen, Colorado, and some big drunk New Zealand, well, not drunk, but tipsy New Zealander was trying to pull women's tops off. So when he got to my goddaughter and wife, I had to put him on the ground and choke him out.
I heard that.
And I ain't that big. But you do anything for 50 years, you pick up a few tricks.
Yeah. But, you know,
Take some martial arts, give you a different perspective on the world.
I'm glad you said that, Judge. I think it's just like,
And
you know,
also
I was
for the
thinking about,
boys, it teaches them how to control anger.
yeah. You know, I was thinking about Theodore Roosevelt, the strenuous life. He came from a life of privilege, but he had his, asthma. He had like health problems. Lost his mom and wife on the same day. He went through a lot of adversity, but he talking about, you got to toughen up. You got to man up. He went out west, get the Rough Rider thing, doing the Spanish-American War. Even fought with police officers when he was police commissioner. Fought with boxing and stuff like that. But, you got to be vigorous about living. A lot of people ain't really living. They on, like, I guess, cruise control, or they just not living. They checked out. They just, I don't know, Judge. It's weird right now.
Like, what the hell is your point? Life without excitement is pretty dull. Excitement gets generated by adversity. When we have those things, we can put the trophies up on the shelf about. They're generally concern adversity.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, it go back to we went from Johnny Cochran to Ben Crump, and it really is a sign of the time. I'm not knocking Ben Crump, but it's just like, yeah, you just settle in, but you're not really trying. What if you push a little bit harder and see what happens? Like, people just want to settle and be comfortable versus really putting themselves in uncomfortable situations to find out what they're really made of. Would you like to know what you're really made of?
I like to see lawyers who kick ass in front of a jury.
Mm-hmm.
I do not get impressed by settlements.
No matter how big they are, Judge. No matter how big the settlement.
I haven't seen any big ones.
Have you seen that? Okay, actually, have you ever seen that Amazon Prime show Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton? You gotta check it out. He's a lawyer. He's an eccentric lawyer, but he's a weird, unorthodox lawyer. He want to do the trial thing. He don't like always settling. And he take on the giants of industry, whether it be big pharma, whatever. And he take them on, and he find a way to win, but he put himself in perilous danger, as well as some of the people that work for his firm or his staff. But I think it's a really good show. It's something you might be interested in looking at.
Well, remember what I told you earlier. I'm retired. That's business. That's work. And I don't like to look at that stuff because sometimes I can figure out much better ways of doing it, or I look at it and where in the hell did they come up with that unreal mess?
Oh, you actually, your life is a movie, Judge. I hear you. You actually live the life.
You know what it's like. You know what it's like is a 16-year-old boy trying to tell you how to get laid.
Wow, I hear you.
Like, son, please, really?
I want to ask you. Speaking of getting laid,
which is interesting.
It was a brother. Yeah, it was a brother that sent me some disturbing details about a site called Bumble.com, a dating site. Like, he's a hetero black male. He's out west. Good brother, it seems like. I talked to him on the phone briefly, and he sent me some stuff in the mail about his issue with Bumble.com, that they actually, he's a hetero male. He loves women, but they changed his profile to one of a trans person. So he's been trying to fight that. He had a lawyer send a letter saying, please, I do not want to be considered a trans person. He's been getting actually threatened by his neighbors. They thought, he was a trans person. Not saying that's right, but it just like, it made his personal life a living hell. Because first he went from getting hookups to not getting none at all, because they refused to change his status for because he's a hetero male, but the guy on there, him as being a trans person. So he wrote me this stuff.
Sounds like an interesting lawsuit. Sounds like an interesting lawsuit.
Okay. So what should you do? You should get a lawyer. You should lawyer up or something.
Well, I would consult with an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's what those guys go spend 3 hard years getting a doctoral degree and spending a lot of time so they can take an exam that lasts 3 days, 8 hours a day, or maybe 4 days, 8 hours a day.
Mm. Cause like he also was saying that,
And then they have to get the experience on the ground in the real world.
yeah, cause I know he was saying also that he brought shares of stock in the company, and also there's a lack of diversity on their board of directors. Like there's no black man on the board, no straight black man at
I'm
least.
not getting paid for this. Go see a lawyer.
So that want to make sure I told my address. So you heard it from the judge. You got a case, perhaps go see a lawyer, somebody who's still practicing. So I just want to make sure wish him well on that. And also, what about the Ahmaud Arbery case? What do the verdict? What do you think about that? The outcome
Down in Georgia?
Mm-hmm. Majority white male jury, 9 white male jurors.
Well, I mean, it's not unusual for something like that to happen. I suspected it would. A lot of people, the hotel, woke kind, they keep putting the black man can't get justice. Yes, they can. Goodness knows all of the white people I've seen get convicted of murdering black folk, and black folk walk for killing white folk. I even had one in front of me where a black chief petty officer out here at Millington Naval Air Station killed a white Marine gunnery sergeant over the gunnery sergeant's ex-wife, who was white. And he got acquitted. And after the trial, the dead white guy's white father walked up and shook the black man's hand and said, "Sometimes, son, you just got to do what you got to do." And I told that fool somebody was going to kill him one day.
Mm. Mm. And also, it was I guess a black guy who got off for shooting a cop. You heard about that? It was happening during the same time as the Rittenhouse trial. About a black
This
guy, I guess.
happened a lot.
Yeah.
They just don't cover this. See, understand, every state has a system to deal with felony criminal charges. Every state. The United States of America, as a federal government, has mechanism for dealing with criminal charges. Every county in a state is part of a district or some sort, and there are local courts that handle it. And these courts are overworked. Why do you think they're overworked? Because they got a lot of cases. So everywhere in the country, there are tens of thousands of these courts handling hundreds of thousands of these cases. We only hear about itty bitty 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 number of them, and they make a great deal of it. This just isn't even a tip of the iceberg situation. This is just a few flakes of snow on top. It happens all the time.
Yeah, the case I was referring to
What
was the
happens in
Andrew
criminal courts
Coffey,
here?
the 4th case. Are you familiar with the Andrew Coffey, the 4th case? He got off when the police raided his father's home on suspicion of drug trafficking. And I don't think they properly identified themselves, but he shot back. I think he might have killed a cop or whatever. Have you heard about that case, Judge?
It happens.
His girlfriend was killed.
No.
Actually, like
Are you talking about the one everybody was up in arms because she got
no,
shot?
I know that's the one in Louisville. This happened in back in 2017. And I guess Coffey's defense attorneys argue he was asleep when law enforcement smashed his bedroom window. In a state of confusion, Coffey claimed he feared for his safety, rather, because he was unaware of who was breaking into his residence. He fired his gun several times, causing law enforcement officials to return fire. Tragically, Coffey's girlfriend was killed in the crossfire. It's similar to the Louisville one that happened. Was
Yeah,
that
well,
last
what
year?
happened? What happened?
Huh?
What
Well,
happened to
no,
him?
he was fired. The cops did not properly identify themselves. They bust into his home looking for his father, who was a alleged drug
Well, what
trafficker.
happened to the person that fired?
Well, the
Did he
person
get
that
charged
fired
with
on the
anything?
same day as Rittenhouse, on Friday, November 19th, jurors found Andrew Coffey, the fourth, not guilty on charges of felony murder and attempted murder of a law enforcement officer. He was convicted of possession of a firearm by a
Okay,
convicted
well,
felon,
there you
however.
go. So that puts another lie to this thing about black man can't get justice. See, black men can get justice if you've got a black judge or one that is concerned about his black constituents. You get justice if the black folk who get called for jury service don't try to excuse themselves to get out of serving. You get justice if the DA has to depend on a black vote or
Yeah, it's true.
fears
But
a
also,
black
he
vote.
still got that felony thing. He possessed the gun. He's a felon. That's the problem. So they're gonna get you for
Well,
something,
see,
though.
but that's the other thing. People don't get that. You may be in illegal possession of a firearm, but not have done anything illegal in the use of it under certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many.
For
But my
example,
thing,
you are a felon and you're not supposed to possess a firearm, but there happens to be. See, look, envision this. You're a felon, you're
mm-hmm,
not supposed to have a firearm, but you're visiting your brother, and your brother legitimately can own one. And something happens like that, and there is the firearm. You pick it up, you're now a felon in possession. That's illegal. But what you use it for is not illegal. It's two
mm-hmm.
separate things under the circumstances. Under other circumstances, it may not be.
Okay, I mean, but like what?
The law tries to take into account human nature and reality.
Yeah, but the thing about the Rittenhouse thing is weird with black people. Cause I know a lot of intelligent black people that still think that he was in the wrong when I look at his self-defense. If you look at the facts, not the hyperbole and the misdirection and deflection of the media, but you look at the actual facts of the case, he acted in self-defense. This was not a mass shooting thing. But black folks
No,
are
it wasn't.
tripping on it. I don't know what's wrong with a lot of us about this
They're
Rittenhouse
stupid.
thing.
They're stupid. They're stuck on
But
stupid.
they're
I don't
very
care how
intelligent people, though.
intelligent,
They got advanced degrees,
but
Judge.
they aren't
I can't have any
necessarily
conversation with them.
intelligent. See, stupid is classically defined as having the intelligence to know better, but based on information that would lead you to another alternative, you picked a stupid one.
Yeah, I know a lot of educated fools. Then how about that?
That's a good way of putting it.
I don't get it, Judge. I'm living in a weird twilight zone. Can you not see what happened? That Rittenhouse was in the right, and y'all, he's a monster.
See, here's one of the things. 30 years ago, nobody would have had any problems with it because the general common knowledge of the law would have been substantially broader in terms of its understanding of the law. Nowadays, it's problematic because people don't get taught anything. Look at this thing the Oregon governor signed in the law where you no longer have to be able to read and do arithmetic to get a high school diploma.
You serious? It's an
What the hell did you
idiocracy
go
for
to
real,
school
that
for?
movie. Now, I had a hard time in math. Not simple arithmetic, but advanced whatever. But that's ridiculous.
Well,
That's
then you have to
crazy.
understand that math isn't really about counting.
Mm-hmm.
Math is a language that, amongst other things, facilitates counting.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we can perceive in 3 dimensions easily.
That's right.
We're looking at them right now, 2-dimensional representation. Look around you, you
Mm-hmm.
see in 3 dimensions. Some people can perceive a 4th dimension, a manifold, where the 3D thing extends through time.
Mm.
But it looks like current reality has at least 11 dimensions, but no human alive has the brain power to think in 11 dimensions. But you have math. Math is predictive, and if you predict with it and you find that the predictions are accurate, if you can calculate with the math, if you can design stuff that works as intended using the math, then you get confidence at it. And when you have high confidence in the math and the math starts predicting 11 dimensions, and even though you cannot intuitively visualize it, you can react upon it with a great deal of reliance, particularly if it does something like it allows cell phones to be made and they work.
Now, I'm ask this. I
It's
had
a
a
language.
yes, sir. Language. Numbers tells the story, right? Numbers run the universe.
Not numbers tell the story. Numbers are numbers represent relationships.
Yes, sir. That's good to know.
If you want
I
to
gotta
try
ask.
one, try this one. Try this one for numerology. Take any number of numbers, add them up, and keep adding them up until you only get one digit. The interesting part is if you have nines in that sequence of numbers, you can take every nine out before you start and you'll get the same result. You can take every nine out and every combination that equals nine out, and you'll get the same result. Why? In other words, 1 plus, let's say you have 1, 9, 7, 6. 1 and 9 is 10, 7 is 17, 8 is 25, and you get 6, that's 31. What's that? That's 4. 31, 3 and 1 is 4. If you take everything out, take the nines out, you wind up with 4. Why is it that when you remove nines from any set of numbers, you get the same result when you add them up, at least in terms of the digits? That's math. Play with it sometime. It's very amusing.
It sounds like magic tricks to me, Judge. Magic. Now, Judge, you're an expert on ballistics and guns and all that stuff. Like, somebody want me to ask you about like Nipsey Hussle, the rapper, and the Young Dolph case, but there's no video that we have seen. But she wanted to know, why was there not any blood coming out of Nipsey Hussle when he was killed, even though he was shot with bullets? Why you couldn't see any blood coming out of his
body? Sometimes the blood does not exit the body; it stays internally. It stays inside. Fat can close over certain type of wounds if they are small diameter wounds. Sometimes it's a mess.
Okay, that's what I'm glad you answered that question for us. You just wondering. I said, I don't.
One of the problems with why police shoot so many times is, in the heat of the moment, a lot of times people aren't sure they actually hit the target. I can take somebody to the range and test them, and if they aren't very good, they won't hit the target from not too far away every time they shoot. When the adrenaline gets pumping, when it's after dark, when things are moving fast, the target's jinking around, you might be moving around, shaking from the adrenaline or pure fright. You may not be confident that you hit the target. And oftentimes when a target is hit by, say, a pistol bullet, it doesn't show any reaction at all. And people who are professionals and go in the line of hazard often, when everything calms down, they'll check each other out, man. Find anything? No, you're clean. In other words, it's not uncommon for somebody to have been shot and not realized it. So they want to find out before they bleed out or it gets more serious. So that's why you shoot until you see some results. Don't shoot one time, because the odds are as a pistol bullet's not going to stop the fight. You don't shoot the wound, you shoot to kill, because even if you're trying to kill, most people can't do any better than wound. Now, you may fatally injure somebody, kill them with one shot, but they're not going to die for 6 or 7 hours. Or I've had cases in my court where a person's heart was completely destroyed, all four chambers, with a well-placed 45 caliber hollow point to the center of the chest. But if you completely destroy a human's heart, they can operate for 10 seconds. That's enough for a good sprinter to run a 100-yard dash, or somebody like Usain Bolt to run 100 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Before and then after 10 seconds, they can do a lot of damage back to you. Let's try that. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, Mark. End. You can kill quite a few people in those 10 seconds before you keel over.
Yeah. It's like a
Don't
long
get back
time,
up.
actually. It seemed longer than 10 seconds.
That was
You
only
know,
10
people when
seconds.
they in, I guess, gunfire, just 10 seconds. So
See,
what
people
about, do
don't
you
go
perform
boom
CPR on
like they
gunshot
do in the
victims?
movies. That's for dramatic effect. They get hit.
Oh, yeah.
When you
Okay,
get
Judge, let me ask you
amateur
this.
killing somebody with a knife, they stab them 15, 20, 25 times. The guy stabs somebody and nothing happens. He says, "Oh, hell, is this Superman?" Stabs him again. The process of death or incapacitation is loss of blood pressure. So you keep stabbing him and you accelerate the loss of blood pressure. And then finally, after 25 times or so, you see some results.
Now, is it smart to do CPR on a gunshot victim?
Sometimes, depends.
What were they shot in the chest like Malcolm X?
And be aware of sucking chest wounds too. You may have to see them so the person's lung doesn't collapse. Put pressure on the wound. Somebody stop breathing, you want to keep oxygen in the system, do what you can.
Oh, okay. I just want to know. I just thought, okay. And also
Now,
people
I'm not an expert on it, but I am qualified as a rescue diver, so I had to go through that. So if you pull somebody out of the ocean.
And also, I got to ask you about the young Dolph thing. I know there's people always talking about, well, if he was shot from the outside, how come his arm was out of the window at the bottom? And some people think that he might have been shot from the inside. So, like, is it possible? I don't know. I think his bodyguard guy moved his body too, allegedly. So, is it possible to shoot somebody and then
Maybe
they
to
still come
check and see
forward?
if he
Or
is alive or if there's a pulse.
yeah,
See, people don't get blown backwards or blown out of their shoes like they make out in Hollywood. A person
okay.
shot from the front is just as likely to fall straight forward toward the shot as he is to fall backwards or sideways.
Even if it was like an
Uh,
assault weapon or something.
yeah, I mean, so-called ARs, Armalite 15 is only a 22 caliber weapon. They have conversion kits where you can shoot 22 rimfire down the same barrel. It's just a 22. In the military, they've had this on again, off again debate about the bullet's too small to do any real damage to anybody. And for hunting purposes, usually you use that caliber to deal with varmints, squirrels, groundhogs, and gophers and stuff like that.
Wow. I mean, it's good. That's why I'm talking to you, Judge. You are an expert on this type of stuff. And what's your take on I guess Dr. William Pepper's work? I guess 20 something years later.
Dr. Pepper, with respect, is enterprising. He's a hustler. He doesn't have the technical expertise. My conclusions on what happened with Ray and King differ from his. Mine are that it was no conspiracy outside. The FBI went to Quantico, where the Marines had a sniper school, recruited some people who were still
Judge, we lost you.
suppressed.
Hey, Judge,
Uh,
hello, you breaking up. We
well,
lost you a little
they
bit. You
the
said
the
Quantico.
FBI supplied. Okay, what happened? The FBI went to Quantico, where the Marines have a sniper school and a training base next to the FBI training academy. They recruited 2 shooters. One served as a shooter, the other one as a spotter. They equipped them with XM21s, which were modified M14s for use as a sniper weapon. They were equipped with a psionic suppressor, which is, I guess, kind of a large silencer. Special subsonic ammunition, so the bullet would get there after the sound rather than before. And the shots came from the fire station tower. Everything else was happenstance that they set up so there would be alternative scapegoats. I have
But the FBI was
the
involved.
copies. Yeah, I have copies of the invoice that was sent to the FBI in late December 1967 for 5 of the weapons in question, 5,000 rounds of the ammunition in question, which is consistent with what was pulled out of King's body. And late April 1968, after the return of the 5 rifles was required, the FBI on inventory claimed they could only find 4 of them, and 1 of them was lost.
I'm gonna ask this: why do
By the
people?
way, interesting thing too, the FBI used either 760 Game Masters or 870 Remington pumps at the time as standard issue to its agents. So a 760 Game Master being brought on the scene of the King shooting would have aroused no suspicion because there were a bunch of other agents with the same kind of weapon in their possession.
So with that said, why do people still have faith or trust in the FBI? We know all the stuff they've been involved with, especially with the director, J. Edgar Hoover, his legacy, even with Ruby Ridge and Waco with David Koresh. All this stuff is a cloud of suspicion to me over the legacy of the FBI. Why is the FBI still trusted?
J. Edgar Hoover was a high yellow black man whose family got run out of Louisiana by the Klan because they were trying to pass for white. If you look at younger pictures of J. Edgar Hoover, he looks much like Harold Ford Jr. does. The FBI was created to get the black world heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson, and put him in a sling because white people in Congress didn't like him running around with these white women crossing state lines. They said it sent out a bad message to the colored who were so recently slaves. They came up with the Mann Act, and that's who busted Jack Johnson. So Jack Johnson used to be a bigger hero to black people in America than Muhammad Ali did at one time. You need to take that as a historical context. So it's not surprising what a self-hating black man would do. He did despise and detest the Klan. But, you know, black folk always down each other when each other is very embarrassing to each other.
Wow, there's a lot to that. I know your thing about not celebrating Kwanzaa is well documented now. With
I
the
want to
Garanga.
celebrate that. Ron Everett, who at one time was a student body president at LA City College, and he had a Jamaican accent, wavy, long hair, blue-green eyes, and then became shaved head and wore shades all the time, and tried to speak street and became Maulana, the Maulana Ron Karenga. He started Kwanzaa to get black folk to talk, and he used that to gain information that he could supply to the LAPD SIS unit and to the FBI. And he had his henchmen go to a lot of community meetings and take shorthand notes. And if you happen to be at one of these meetings, there was a disconcerting tendency to be hauled in by the FBI in a week or two to be questioned closely about what you said. And he got a lot of folk that I knew personally murdered in the late 60s. So, no, I went to one Kwanzaa function. That was the very first one he had in 1966. at Lamert Park on Crenshaw Boulevard in L.A. and never will go to another anything having to do with that.
I got to ask you too. Somebody asked about what your thoughts about the passing of Bell Hooks. You have any thoughts about her?
The who?
Bell Hooks, the feminist, philosopher, black intellectual scholar person who passed away recently at 69.
I have no idea. Didn't read her stuff. Wasn't on my reading list.
You know what? I read her stuff in college. I was not impressed. No disrespect to her. I kind of feel like her, like how some of the people felt about Dr. Frances Cress Wilson when she passed, which I did like. I respect the work that Dr. Frances Cress Wilson did because she predicted a lot of stuff that's going on with behavior modification among so-called black people with her ISIS papers. But to me, it's a lot of these feminists like to just crap on black men and black masculinity. And really, we need that if we want to have the black family. And that's what's missing.
That's
Because I
one of
look
the
at,
reasons we have such hell in Memphis right now is because we lack black masculinity in this town.
Yes, sir.
From top to bottom.
Yes, sir.
There are some strong men, but not enough.
And that's the problem. And they're not speaking up and out like you and standing their ground and doing things. And that is a problem. I just think that you look at even the miseducation system, it would benefit more from black male presence or masculinity in the system. But they just want you to be a hall monitor or a gym coach or something like that. They don't want you to be administrator, running the school, or being a teacher.
Something's happening in the educational system, and I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, the educational system was the only outlet for very intelligent women, whatever their race. Educated, intelligent women. They flocked into education so they could teach children. Now they can become doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, anything else they want to be. So why get into education when you can get paid more starting off at the post office? You know, you get paid around $30,000 a year to start here in Memphis. Granted, you only need a 2-year associate degree, but you have no retirement benefits. What's the point? Unless you just love the thing, and then that cuts down on the women that could be involved in teaching, and that cuts down on the men, and too many of the women these days teach because if they teach 2 years at an inner city school, they get the student loans forgiven.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about
28 to 30 some thousand.
Let's talk about, do people have buyer's remorse after 2020 elections or selections?
We dropped off there. So
what do you think about, do you think people now have
$32,000 a year?
Okay.
What I was gonna say was take 30.
We just lost the judge.
Here we go. Take $28,000 to $32,000. Take $28,000 to $32,000 a year for 2 years and get your student loans forgiven. That's a better bargain than getting paid more for a longer period of time. But they quit because typically they're putting some guy through getting a master's of business administration, medical or dental degree or a law degree or something else. And they're going for the traditional family and they're bailing. The school system here made a point about 6-7 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, getting rid of all of the experienced high-income teachers. And they came up with a sham and got rid of a lot of them. So we've lost that educational excellence and we have something else now.
Well, city of good
and I don't think our educational system should be privatized when it's supposed to be public. Teach America should not be educating, instructing, selecting, hiring, and firing the teachers and assigning them, not either.
So,
and I think the county's Board of Education should be handling the county board's legal matters, not farming it out to Birch, Porter, and Johnson at high premium prices per hour.
So somebody want to know, did you know C. Dolores Tucker?
I was acquainted.
What's your take on? Was she right about the situation
In what
with the
respect?
music industry? Like, was she correct, you think, in her assessment of the music industry as it relates to rap music?
You know what my answer to that is ultimately on a deep level? Who cares?
Mm.
Now, for purposes of cocktail party discussion, pretty much so. Why do we care about the rap industry? It doesn't do anything for us. It distracts us. It doesn't even inspire us. It's not like the teams behind the school band strikes up something stirring and everybody's inspired to stomp somebody on the football field, or you're marching into battle and you feel stirred, or there is something where you're trying to look into your woman's eyes and figure out what you need to say to get laid or what the mood needs to be. So what does it do for us?
Wow.
Why are we focused on distraction as though it was something important?
Mm. And do you feel like that people have?
When P.T. Barnum first opened up,
Mm-hmm.
when P.T. Barnum first opened up his circuses, somebody said, "Mr. Barnum, how do you expect to make a money off of this? Who would come in and look at such a thing?" And he said, "A lot of people." He said, "Well, my goodness, somebody would have to be a sucker." He said, "There's one born every minute."
And speaking of suckers, do you think people have buyer's remorse about the 2020 selection of Biden and Kamala Harris and other people?
Jackass in chief, Joe and the hoe.
I mean, we got the midterms coming up next year.
Kamala Harris had to drop out of the primary campaign because he was doing so poorly. So she has the unique distinction of having the lowest ratings, approval rating, and the highest disapproval rating of any vice president since they've been doing this, and that would include Spiro Agnew. That was Tricky Dick Nixon's vice president who had to resign because he wound up doing federal and state time for crimes.
Mm.
Let's put it that way.
So do you think?
The woman
Yeah,
did
do you
not
think
do
Joe gonna
much of
make it through?
anything in San Francisco or as California attorney. I don't think he's going to get
Mm.
a second term.
Is he gonna make it through the first term
I
though? That's what I'm
think
trying to ask.
that he might, but I think they're going to prop him up.
They doing it already.
I don't
OMG.
think many people want Kamala Harris, but what I don't want is for them to promote Harris upstairs by putting her on the Supreme Court. She doesn't have the intellect for that, nor the experience, nor a demonstrated capacity. So she's been sort of every now and then we get an anomaly. Remember when we were talking about stupid folk or big dummies that slide by?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the career she's had in California, she has not done a single thing that anybody could point to be innovative. She has a hat full of things that look like compromises and would call into question her integrity.
Mm-hmm.
She
Okay.
has no. Her
President.
own dad doesn't support her. Actually, I met her dad one time.
Uh-huh.
He got introduced to me as a Hindu.
Mm. Well, and she don't
Oh, by
even.
the way,
Mm-hmm.
commercial break. JJB, BBQ.com. Judge Joe Brown, barbecue. JJB, BBQ.com. Get some and you'll love it. You will have never bought any better sauce over the counter anywhere at any time. We're expanding. It will be in grocery stores somewhere about springtime.
Man,
But
that's
you
some
can
good
get it
stuff.
online.
That's
jjbbbq.com.
that's excellent,
And we
man. That's
will
some good
be
stuff.
expanding the line.
Definitely good stuff. And Judge, do you have any? I don't want you've been very generous with your time. And I know you probably got things to do. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave the people with?
Yes, Memphis listeners, Shelby County, Tennessee, United States, the world, manhood is a friend of mankind. We need it. We can't do without it. So do your duty, man up, buck up, get up, pick it up, move it up.
Thank you, Judge, so much. In the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing and enjoy this. I
I've
guess this.
got to go. This has been Judge Joe. Catch me when you can, because I'm the one ran. I'm out of here.
Thank you,
Have
Judge. We
good
love you
cheer
madly.
for the holiday coming up.
Yes, sir. Likewise. It's an honor
All right,
always.
sir.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for tuning in. You know, we had some issues with the sound, but I want to thank the moderators, Black Voltron Reloaded, and the others for doing what they do. Thank the folks for tuning in. Judge always game on, regardless of the time or the hour. Judge always bring it the best way he knows how to do it. No chill with the judge. Thank you all for tuning. Like the words, rather from Brother Heard or the judge, even subscribe to the We All Be TV channel on YouTube. That's We All Be TV, one word. And spread the word about that. You can support the stuff of Brother Heard. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Go down here. You got Cash App R2C2H2. There's $ R2C2H2. Google Pay, PayPal, Zelle your support at r2c2h2 at gmail.com. That's r2c2h2 at gmail.com. You can Vimo your support at r2c2h2. You can buy and wear Artemis art. This is my high five, Louis Armstrong and Lil Hardy Armstrong on my shirt. It's my original artwork you can wear. Go below the description box on YouTube video of this video. Go below. There's access to our official Teespring t-shirt site, R2C2H2's Place. Get you a shirt today, or you can buy Art of His Art, R2C2H2.com. That's R2C2H2.com. Thank y'all so much. Let me read a disclaimer. I believe in the First Amendment. How about you? I believe in disclaimers. How about you? Disclaimer. The views expressed by hosts and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information and letting the general public be the to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support. Thank you all for tuning in, tuning out. Thank you all who will support the movement, who have supported the movement, who will make donations, and will continue to make donations, and will spread the word about this amazing platform. And I'm so blessed to serve you all on since basically 2009. This is when I started my YouTube channel back in January of 2009, and we are still here. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We can't be stopped. We all be for life. Okay. For the news-free Dixie for the 21st century. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Love you madly. Is that King on? Now, that's actually Homer Phillips. He was a lawyer out in St. Louis. He went to Howard University. He used to stay at the house of the great poet Paul Laurence Dunbar. He's from Missouri, the state of Missouri. And he actually took on the city of St. Louis for funding for a hospital for Black people, a state-of-the-art hospital for Black people. He actually got $1 million bond from the city to do that, But before the hospital was built, he was assassinated back in the early 30s while waiting on the trolley to go to work. He was approached by two black men that shot him to death. And so there was a black man who was a very positive black man who believed in instilling black pride and civic pride in black people in the city of St. Louis, who believed that we're going to be separated, we should be treated equally. So the hospital was named after him. The Homer G. Phillips Hospital was named after him in honor of his sacrifice and his commitment to serving black people. Now, it was brothers that brought the trial, I believe, but they got off. But who knows who really killed, who really pulled the trigger. I mean, yeah, black dudes pulled the trigger on Homer Phillips. First they punched him and then they shot him. But who really sent on black dudes to get rid of Homer Phillips? So like I'm saying about with young Dolph, y'all keep on telling me he should never go back to the hood or help his people. You got black people like Judge Joe Brown, lawyers, freedom fighters that never get talked about enough for doing right by their people. Sometimes when you serve black folks, you get forgotten about. And that's the way it is, because a lot of times we don't practice enough self-love to help group love a lot of times. Because Homer G. Phillips Hospital was one of the at one point trained more black doctors and nurses than any facility in the world. More black doctors and nurses were trained in Homer G. Phillips Hospital than any facility in the world at one point in the 20th century, I believe. Maybe in the country, sure in the world as well. Prominent people connected to the hospital include Dr. T.I.M. Howard, who was the doctor, surgeon, entrepreneur down in Mound Bayou, Mississippi. Dr. T.I.M. Howard is the reason why we know about the Emmett Till case. He actually sent in investigators to investigate what happened to Emmett Till. He actually was the Jegna of Medgar Evers and his brother Charles. Medgar Evers worked for Dr. Howard when he got out of college, when he graduated from Alcorn State. He moved up to the Mississippi Delta to Mound Bayou and worked for Dr. Howard at his insurance company. We know Medgar Evers being the field secretary for the NAACP in the state of Mississippi, but he actually got his first job selling insurance for Dr. Howard. And he was one of the people that helped Dr. Howard investigate the Emmett Till case. Not only that, he helped Dr. Howard protect witnesses, help move witnesses, locate witnesses, help them get moved to Chicago after contributing to our knowledge of what happened to Emmett Till. Dr. Howard was able to find out that there was more than just two white brothers that helped kidnap and kill Emmett Till. He actually found out there were black people involved. He called out J. Edgar Hoover back in the 50s for being lazy and lackadaisical about the whole situation. He made J. Edgar Hoover's enemies list after that. He was the wealthiest man in the state of Mississippi back in the 40s and 50s. Wealthiest black man. He helped build the first swimming pool for black people in the state of Mississippi. He had his own petting zoo, restaurant. He was the chief surgeon at the hospital in Mound Bayou. Dr. Howard is going to be featured in the Women of the Movement series about Emmett Till and his mama Mamie Till's journey to find justice for her son. So y'all should check out the Women of the Movement series, which will come out on ABC, I believe, on January the 6th of 2022. So Dr. Howard was an interesting cat. Damn. Let me talk more about Dr. Howard. I'm doing a whole nother show. Dr. Howard was one of the organizers of the Regional Council of Negro Leadership down in Mississippi. They have an annual event where about 10 to 20,000 black folks from around the area will come out to talk about black business ownership, voting rights. Very progressive. So that sometimes they will help for their entertainment. Mahalia Jackson, the keynote speaker will be somebody like Adam Clayton Powell Jr. or the Right Reverend Representative Adam Clayton Powell Jr. or a Thurgood Marshall. And it was interesting. So like we need to know more about these type of people. Dr. Howard was actually ran out the state of Mississippi, went to Chicago, opened up a hospital on, I believe, on the south side of Chicago. Was one of the first black national leaders to raise money for the family of Malcolm X when he was assassinated. Gave Jesse Jackson the seed money to start his own organization, Push Coalition, Rainbow Push Coalition. He started that basically in Dr. Howard's mansion. And he gave him the seed money for that. And another guy was Henry Hampton Sr. He was the chief surgeon at Homer G. Phillips Hospital for years. His son was Henry Hampton Jr. He went to Washington University in St. Louis, my alma mater, and he's the guy who created this series that's known today, the TV docuseries, the celebrated award-winning TV docuseries Eyes on the Prize that came out back in the 80s. Really told the story of the civil rights movement from perspective of the people who participated in the civil rights struggle, mostly majority Black people. Even interviewed William O'Neill for the Eyes on the Prize episode that featured Fred Hampton Sr. So yeah, this is Homer G. Phillips. Look him up. Take a look. It's all online. He's a legend. He believed in his people. He wasn't afraid of his own shadow. He lived among Black folks. He died among Black people. And he planted a seed, a legacy that benefited Black folks for decades and generations. So, yeah. Yeah, I like to talk. But yeah, I thank y'all for being patient. I did several shows. I'm ahead of my time. I did several shows about Dr. Howard. They wrote a book about him. There's a husband and wife historians down in Alabama, Dr. Linda Beto or Beto and Dr. David Beto. They wrote a book about Dr. Howard. It should be available on Amazon. It was known as the Black Maverick at one point. Now I think they changed the name of the biography, but it's a great read. Yeah, so that does it, family. Thank you all for being patient. Thank you, moderators. Thank all the folks who may have donated or will donate. I didn't read everything in the chat room, but thank y'all for moderating. Thank y'all for expressing yourselves, for asking questions. They had a chance to ask Judge Joe Brown. We love you all madly. Y'all take care of each other. Take care of yourself. Be careful out here. Be safe, but be you by any means necessary. And know, in the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Thank y'all so much. And thanks for the love. Peace.